Hi, hello, and welcome to the series of lectures on data communications and networks. In today's session, we'll see what is the internet, a brief history of the internet service providers, the protocols and standards. So let's get started. So this is the outline of today's session. So the internet has revolutionized many aspects of our daily life. So it has affected the way we do the business and how the way we spend our leisure time. So some of examples we use daily: sending emails, paying bills, reading newspapers, or looking up local movie schedules by using the internet, researching a medical shop topic, booking hotel, chatting with their friends, or shopping. So these are some of the day-to-day activities for which we are using the internet. So the internet, it is a communication system that has brought a wealth of information to our fingertips and organized it for our use. So we'll see a brief history of the internet. So the internet is a collaboration of more than hundreds of thousands of interconnected networks. So here the internet, if you see the lowercase internet I, it is two or more networks that can communicate with each other. And if you see the uppercase internet, that is capital I, in this case, this is a collaboration of more than hundreds of thousands of interconnected networks. So private individuals and many organizations such as government agencies, schools, research facilities, corporations and libraries in more than 100 countries use the internet. Here many millions and billions of people are the users. So this is a brief history of the internet. In the mid-1960s, mainframe computers were standalone devices. So the computers from different manufacturers were unable to communicate with one another. Then in 1967, an Association for Computing Machinery, which is known as the ACM, at an ACM meeting, ARPA, this is the Advanced Research Products Agency, it presented its ideas for ARPANET, which is a small network of connected computers. So in this, the main idea was that each host computer would be attached to a specialized computer, which is known as an interface message processor. These interface message processors in turn would be connected to each other or one another. Here each IMP had to be able to communicate with other IMPs as well as its own attached host. This IMP is the interface message processor. Then in 1969, this ARPANET was a reality where 4 nodes were connected via the IMPs to form a network. Software known as the Network Control Protocol provided communication between the hosts. Then in 1972, Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn, they were part of the core ARPANET group. They collaborated on the Interneting project. This project outlined the protocols to achieve end-to-end delivery of packets. This paper on Transmission Control Protocol, that is TCP, included concepts such as the encapsulation, the datagram and the functions of a gateway. Shortly thereafter, the authorities, they split the TCP into 2 protocols. One is the Transmission Control Protocol, TCP, and the second is the Internetworking Protocol, that is IP. Here the IP would handle the datagram routing while the TCP would be handling the higher level functions such as segmentation, reassembly and error correction and detection. The Internetworking Protocol, it came to be known as the TCP IP. The internet today. So today the internet, it is not a simple hierarchical structure. It is made up of many wide and local area networks, that is WANs and LANs, which are joined by connecting devices and switching stations. So it is very difficult to give an accurate representation of the internet because it is continually changing. New networks are being added, existing networks are adding addresses, and the networks of defunct companies are being removed. Today most end users who want internet connections, they use the services of the internet service providers. We'll see next. So these are the internet service providers. One is the international service providers, second is the national service providers, then we have the regional service providers and the local service providers. So you can see the structure of a national internet service provider and interconnection of national internet service providers. At the top of the hierarchy are the international service providers that connect nations together. That is the ISP, Internet Service Providers. Then we have the national service providers. The national internet service providers, they are the backbone networks created and maintained by specialized companies. There are many national ISPs which are operating in North America. Some well known are the Sprintlink, PSINet, UUNet Technology, AGIs and InternetMel. These backbone networks are connected by simple switching stations known as the network access points. Some national ISP networks are also connected to one another by private switching stations. They are known as the peering points. The operating speed is very high, up to 600 Mbps. Then we have the regional service providers. They are the smaller ISPs which are connected to one or more national ISPs. They are at the third level of the hierarchy with a smaller data rate. Then we have the local service providers. The local internet service providers, they provide direct service to the end users. They can be connected to regional ISPs or directly to the national ISPs. Mostly they are connected to the local ISPs. In this case, local ISP can be a company which provides just the internet services. It may be a non-profit organization such as a college or a university which runs its own network. Each of these ISPs can be connected to a regional or a national service provider. You can see the hierarchy of ISPs. We have the ISPs, then the regional ISPs, then the national ISPs. So this is the structure of a national ISP. Then this is an interconnection of national ISPs. Protocols and standards. A protocol is a set of rules that govern the data communications. Standards provide guidelines to ensure the kind of interconnectivity which is necessary. These are the key elements of a protocol: syntax, semantics and the timing. So in computer networks, the communication occurs between entities in different systems. An entity means which is capable, or anything which is capable of sending information or receiving the information. For communications to occur, both of the two entities, that is the transmitter and the receiver, they must agree on a protocol. So the protocol means the set of rules that govern the data which is to be communicated from the transmitting end to the receiving end. So these are the key elements. The first one is a syntax. Syntax means the structure or a form or the format of the data in which the order in which they are presented. You can see one example is a simple protocol might expect the first 8 bits of data to be the address of the sender, the second 8 bits to be the address of the receiver, and the remaining stream is the message. Okay, suppose if you have an entire data stream, out of the complete data stream, the starting 8 bits is the address of the sender, the ending 8 bits is the address of the receiver, and the remaining data stream is the actual message which has to be transmitted from the transmitter to the receiver. Then we have the semantics. Semantics means each section of bits. Here how the particular pattern is to be interpreted and what action has to be taken based on that interpretation. As we can see one example. Does an address identify the route to be taken or the final destination of the message? So this is known as semantics. Next is the timing. In timing we have two characteristics: when the data should be sent, how fast the data can be sent. Example, if a sender produces data at 100 Mbps but the receiver can process the data only at 1 Mbps. In such case, the transmission will overload the receiver, and in such cases some of the data will be lost. So the transmitter and the receiver, the data rate of both should be the same or approximately the same for the data to be sent in a timely manner. So these are the three key elements of a protocol. Then we have the standards. Standards are essential in creating and maintaining an open and competitive market, and in guaranteeing national and international interoperability of the data and the telecommunications technology and process.